has uncovered a chilling conspiracy hatched in the corridors of power to sabotage this week's Gen Z Memorial March. A high-ranking State House insider, a powerful UDA member of parliament from the Rift Valley, are at the center of a covert plot to derail Wednesday's protests. Protests meant to honor those who died in last year's bloody demonstrations. Crafted in secrecy and executed with precision, the operation draws from the depths of City Hall and the highest echelons of government. It weaves together a shadowy web of political fixers, hired goons, and digital mercenaries hell-bent on silencing a generation. From disruption to destruction, this is not just about protest. It's about power control and the lengths some will go to crush dissent. This is the inside story.
Wednesday's planned Gen Z protests will mark exactly 1 year since over 6 young people lost their lives in a deadly finance bill uprising. But as scores of young people prepare to take to the streets this Wednesday, a covert operation to stop the protests is underway that could plunge the city into chaos. The shadowy plot, backed by high-ranking officials within the ruling party and City Hall, aims to unleash violence and chaos under the guise of crowd control and protection of property. A squad of hired goons are on standby to unleash terror, targeting mainly the soft spot of the protests, women, so as to spread panic as well as execute orders to snatch phones to prevent the documentation of police brutality and rights violations.
Nafikiri hawa vijana wachache wamekuja Nairobi na rungu ndio wameletea shida, mkuje wiki ijayo ndio mjue vijana hapo wako wapi. Vijana mko? Wangapi wako tayari kudefend serikali? Twende Nairobi. Twende Nairobi. Tupambane na hao.
This man, William Kamket, is speaking in the open, has outrightly declared violence against the protesters. KTN has established that Kamket is working under the command of two top figures, a State House operative and an influential UDA MP from Rift Valley, close to the house on the hill. And in what now appears to be a clear command hierarchy, 5 other MPs and a governor have each been assigned specific duties to scuttle the protests. The 5 are 2 MPs from Kisii County, 2 from Central Kenya, and a female MP from the Rift Valley. On Monday, June 16th, ahead of last Tuesday's protests triggered by the killing of Albert Ojwang, this core team quietly convened at Nairobi's Sarova Pan-Africa Hotel and lasted for 2 hours. The meeting discussing ways to neutralize the protests, and the results were out in the open. Club-wielding gangs roamed through the city, unleashing terror with reckless abandon. In some areas, they were spotted fueling their motorcycles in the presence of police officers and chanting anti-protest songs. The grand plan that brings together senior government figures, parastatal heads, and digital propagandists aims to plant goons in key protest zones across Nairobi's CBD, arm them with clubs and other weapons, and unleash them to defenseless protesters. Thousands of wooden clubs, KTN has learned, have been transported to the city, all in uniform in design, and manufactured at a private facility in Nanyuki, reportedly owned by a local politician and allegedly transported to the city using police vehicles. The recruitment of the attackers targets young, jobless men from Nairobi's informal settlements of Mathare, Korogocho, Kibera, Kawangware, and Kayole, promised cash and protection in exchange for silence and brute force. KTN has now obtained damning WhatsApp messages and internal memos that expose the anatomy of this counter-protest operation. The operation is being coordinated and driven by a woman identified as Antonella Kakuko, known in political circles as simply Nella. She is a key figure in UDA's communication team, feared and revered, tasked with mobilizing millions of shillings to bankroll the mission. Her latest tweets speak of a venomous woman on a mission. Pick this one for instance. Marehemu watarajiwa wa Wednesday is Wednesday na occupies State House and other protected areas. laleni salama. Hiyo haraka ya kwenda Sayuni sijui mmeitoa wapi. Lakini Waswahili husema, mtoto akililia wembe, mpe. At City Hall and running a seemingly parallel process is a lady identified as Elizabeth Waithera, popularly known as Liz, who has emerged as a central figure in last Tuesday's recruitment of goons. Some of the goons have since confessed that they had been recruited to work on behalf of Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja. But the governor has come guns blazing.
I have never and will never sponsor violence of any kind. My entire political life has been anchored on siasa safi, which upholds human dignity, the rule of law, and the democratic rights of every Kenyan.
Mchezo ya kwenda Kaongware kuchukua watoto wetu unawahami ndio waende wafanye uhalifu. Sakaja, you must stop. Wewe walikupigia kura Nairobi, upatie wale vijana ajira, sio kwamba wapatie silaha ya kuingia katika vitendo ya uhalifu.
In the office of the Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service, Felix Koskei, this lady, Karen Cherotich, popularly known as Kiki, is charged with coordination and mobilization of funds. Others coordinating the scheme include Don Kamau, a self-proclaimed ICT strategist who, on social media, has emerged as a conduit between the planners and the street-level executors. In the estates, the top coordinators include Samuel Mundia, a well-known UDA mobilizer for Kayole; Calvins Okoth, popularly known as Gaucho, who famously brands himself as the ghetto president for Makadara area; Swale Sonko for Kibera; and MCA Absalom Odhiambo, also known as Matakwe for Korogocho. The mainstream media is among top targets ahead of Wednesday's planned protests, with digital strategists having already developed smear campaigns and hashtags intended to discredit media outlets. The National Police Service, sources say, has been quietly co-opted into the plan, with past evidence of goons straddling through the city seemingly under their protection. They have, however, since distanced themselves from the plan. And as Wednesday's protests beckon, one thing is clear. Much still hangs in the balance. What was meant to be a day of civic expression may yet again spiral into another flashpoint of chaos in the city.
Arrest and prosecute! Tunataka nini? Tunataka justice!